Good evening to all our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. May I request all our guests to keep their mobile phones in silent mode or switched off. Kindly note that there are two safety exits to your left and right in case of any emergency. May I invite the following dignitaries to take their respective places. Father E. Ibrahim S.J., Director of XLRI. Mrs.Ela Bhatt, Speaker for this evening. Dr. Ashish K. Pani, Dean Academics. Dr. Madhukar Shukla, Chairperson for Father Arupe Center for Ecology and Sustainability. I request you to please stand for the prayer song.
Have you not heard his silent steps? Have you not heard his silent steps? He comes, comes, ever comes. Every moment and every age, every day and every night, he comes, comes, ever comes. Many a song have I sung, in many a mood of mine, but all their notes have always proclaimed, he comes, comes, ever comes. In the fragrant days of sunny April, through the forest wild, he comes, comes, ever comes. In the rainy gloom of July night, on the thundering chariot of clouds, he comes, comes, ever comes. In sorrow after sorrow, it is his steps that press upon my heart. It is the golden touch of his feet that makes my joy to shine. Have you not heard his silent steps? Have you not heard his silent steps? He comes, comes, ever comes. He comes, comes, ever comes. He comes, comes, ever comes.
Please be seated. May I request Mrs. Ela Bhatt and the other dignitaries to come and light the lamp. May I request Ms. Hetal Shah to present a bouquet to Mrs. Ela Bhatt. I now call upon Dr. Madhukar Shukla to give his introduction to Father Arupe Center for Ecology and Sustainability and the Oration. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Shukla.
Thank you and good evening to all of you. The chief guest of this evening and the speaker for the oration, Ms. Ela Bhatt, Chairman, XLRI Board of Governors, Mr. T.V. Narendran and Mrs. Ruchi Narendran, Director of XLRI, Father Abraham, Dean Academics, Professor Ashish Kripani, distinguished guests, my faculty and staff colleagues, students, and members of the media. It's indeed a privilege to welcome all of you for the third Dr. Verghese Kurien Memorial Oration on Sustainable Development, organized by XLRI under the aegis of Father Arupe Center for Ecology and Sustainability, or as we call it, FACES. Before inviting Director Father Abraham to deliver his welcome address, I would like to take a few minutes to introduce the center and also say a few words about the oration. FACES was established in 2012 with a mission to promote practices and policies which will help create a environmentally, socially, and economically sustainable and just society. It's a multidisciplinary center to provide thought leadership to promote policies, practices, and dialogues which have impact on holistic and sustainable development of society and enterprises. During its short existence, FACES has engaged in three key activities, namely, we do knowledge creation, which is we undertake and sponsor research and documentation of sustainable programs, enterprise models, and practices. Two, knowledge dissemination, which is we organize conferences, workshops, roundtables, dialogues to provide a platform for sharing sustainable models for development. For instance, every year, FACES organizes a national level conference on social entrepreneurship, which is attended by about 150, 170 development sector professionals. And lastly, the knowledge application, which is to provide thought leadership for embedded sustainability through consultancy, training, capacity building programs, etc. We decided to institute this annual oration to create a platform to listen to and to learn from thought leaders, social entrepreneurs, development sector professionals, and policy makers who have made a significant contribution to the idea of an empowered and prosperous and sustainable society. The oration is to commemorate the memory of Dr. Verghese Kurien, since, needless to say, there is hardly any better model of sustainable development, both in terms of his life and legacy, than Dr. Kurien. Let me quote his words on what development should mean and what he described development. And he said that true development must be such that it brings the modernization process to the service of a majority, namely the rural poor. It must bring to these people not only the pittance which they need for their humble diet, but also the means whereby they can act together to obtain for themselves the benefits of modern science and organization, and in the process, the means whereby they can build for themselves in every village a society which is at peace with itself, concerned with its neighbors, and able to see the bright future for its children. It's indeed an honor to have Mrs. Ela Bhatt, lovably called Ela Ben, with us to deliver the third Dr. Verghese Kurien oration this year. As we all know, that more than 40 years back, Ela Ben had founded the self-employed women's association, SEWA, which is the single largest trade union of women working in unorganized sector, with a membership of close to 2 million people. Interestingly, its membership consists of hawkers, vendors, home-based workers, beady rollers, manual labor, service providers, and producers such as agricultural labor, cattle rearers, salt workers, etc. But Seva is more than just a union. This unique institution has created a network of more than 100 community-owned and sustainable institutions, such as self-help groups, cooperatives, federations, trusts, etc., which provide the members a range of services from technical, financial, marketing assistance for their trade and livelihoods to social justice and equity. In many ways, Seva also represents the very concept of Anubandh, which is the topic of the oration today, because Seva exemplifies that it's possible to build a holistic, interconnected, mutually beneficial communities that are mindful of the impact their acts have on the lives of other people and the land on which they live. It also shows that 6 basic needs of daily life, food, clothing, housing, health, education, and banking, can be largely met locally, and that people will find diverse and innovative solutions to problems of poverty, exploitation, and environment degradation within a 100-mile community. It's a privilege to welcome you, Ela Ben. We eagerly look forward to your talk. We are also privileged to have Ms. Smita Bhatnagar, Smita Ben, who heads the Seva Managerial School. Welcome, ma'am, to XLRI. I would now like to invite Father Abraham, SJ, our director of XLRI, to introduce Ms. Ela Bhatt and to deliver the welcome address. Father Abraham.
Mrs.Ela Bhatt, Mr. T.V. Narendran, Chairman XLRI Board of Governors, Mrs. Ruchi Narendran, Dr. Ashish Pani, Dr. Madhukar Shukla, senior executives from Tata Steel and other companies in Jamshedpur, faculty, staff, and students, members of the press and media, ladies and gentlemen. I join Professor Madhukar Shukla in welcoming you to the 3rd Dr. Verghese Kurien Memorial Oration, and I thank you for your presence here this evening. It's my pleasure to introduce our distinguished orator for the evening. Born in September 7, 1933 in Ahmedabad, Mrs. Ela Bhatt is fondly known as a gentle revolutionary. After graduating from Sarvajanik Girls High School in Surat in 1948, Mrs. Bhatt attended Maganlal Thakurdas Balmukundas Arts College in Surat, where she received a bachelor's degree in English. 1954, she graduated from Sir L.A. Shah Law College in Ahmedabad, earning a gold medal for her work in Hindu law. In 1955, Ela Ben joined the legal department of India's oldest union for textile workers, the Textile Labour Association, formed in 1920 in the wake of textile workers' strike led by Mahatma Gandhi. Ela Ben pioneered and founded the grassroots women trade union association called the SEVA, Self-Employed Women's Association, in 1972. She served as the union's Secretary General until her retirement in 1996. Under her leadership, SEVA established a cooperative bank in 1974 to provide small loans to poor women to start their own businesses. The union also provided financial and business counseling. Her foremost role in providing banking and microfinance loans to those whom otherwise would be left fighting the vicious cycle of poverty has provided a service of social welfare inspired through direct action, collective strength, and empowerment. SEVA has contributed enormously in educating and raising living standards of millions of self-employed and financially oppressed women across the globe from a grassroots level up. Ela also served as an advisor to multilateral organizations such as the World Bank on matters relating to microfinance, banking, and anti-poverty programs. She is a visionary and a women's rights activist in every sense of the word. Ela is the recipient of several honorary degrees and international and Indian awards, including the Ramon Magsaysay Award for Community Leadership in '77. The same was received by Dr. Kurien earlier. The Right Livelihood Award for Changing the Human Environment in 1984. Padma Shri Padma Vibhushan. She was also the recipient of the first ever Global Fairness Initiative Award 2010, Radcliffe Medal 2011, and the globally recognized CARE Award. In 2007, Ela became a founding member of the Elders, a group of 12 international social activists, including past presidents, prime ministers, and Nobel Peace Prize winners like late Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu, who worked together for peace and human rights across the globe. Ela, the gentle revolutionist, is determined and dedicated visionary. She works for the improvement of all. She has silenced the skeptics, sent change makers back to school, and given evidence that regardless of how poor, illiterate, oppressed one may be, through self-empowerment and trust, lives can be changed for the betterment of all. Thank you, Ela, for graciously accepting our invitation. We are truly privileged to have you address the third Dr. Verghese Kurien Memorial Oration at XLRI this evening. We look forward to your oration. I would like to share with you a few anecdotes on Dr. Kurien's momentous career and his extraordinary leadership skills. XLRI's relation with Dr. Kurien goes back to almost 24 years. I personally had an enriching association with Dr. Kurien and was greatly inspired by his visionary foresight and single-minded determination in executing his vision for the dairy sector, and more importantly, in helping raise living standards of millions of rural milk producers across thousands of villages in India. I first met Dr. Kurien here at XLRI when he came to receive the Sir Jahangir Gandhi Medal for Industrial and Social Peace in 1992. He generously helped us financially to build our MDP residence, a generosity XLRI will always remember. I was invited to be on the governing board of IRMA and served there for 14 years. Dr. Kurien, on behalf of NDDB, sponsored multiple batches of NDDB executives for management development programs at XLRI. Let me share with you a brief history of the purpose-driven life of Dr. Kurien. Dr. Kurien, best known as the father of white revolution in India, is recognized globally as an extraordinary social entrepreneur who envisaged the billion-liter idea, or Operation Flood, the world's biggest agricultural development program. Today, India continues to be the largest producer of milk in the world since 1997, thanks to Operation Flood. India ranks first in milk production, accounting for 18.5% of world production, achieving an annual output of 146.3 million tons during 2014-15, as compared to 137.69 million tons the previous year, recording a growth of 6.26%. Milk production or dairying has become an important secondary source of income for 70 million rural households engaged in agriculture and for over 70% of the workforce that comprises women. Through the spirit of cooperative movement, India has been transformed into a nation which till 1970s was struggling with severe milk scarcity and heavy dependence on import of dairy commodities into the largest milk producing country in the entire world. In the process, we have secured self-sufficiency for India in the dairy sector, propelling our nation towards a position of eminence on the global dairy map. The value of milk produced, over rupees 4 lakh crores, is more than the total value of paddy and wheat produced in this country, contributing around 6% of the national GDP and 26% to the agricultural GDP. This underlines the importance of the dairy sector within the rural economy. In this context, one must acknowledge the immense contribution of Dr. Verghese Kurien for his far-sighted vision in helping kickstart a cooperative milk movement in India and also shaping a forward integration business model by helping create Amul as India's largest single food brand. The success of the dairy industry has resulted from the integrated cooperative system of milk collection, transportation, processing and distribution, conversion of the same to milk powder and products, to minimize seasonal impact on suppliers and buyers, retail distribution of milk and milk products, sharing of profits with the farmer, which are plowed back into enhanced productivity and needs to be emulated by other farm produce and producers. Born in November 26, 1921, to a Syrian Christian family in Calicut, now Kozhikode, Kerala, Dr. Kurien completed his degree in BSc Physics from Loyola College, Chennai, and his engineering from Gindi Engineering College. He started his career in our very city, started working in those days called Tata Iron and Steel Company, now Tata Steel, Jamshedpur, as a graduate apprentice trainee. In 1948, he went to the United States on a Government of India scholarship and earned a Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering with distinction from Michigan State University the same year. Returning to India in 1949, by a sheer quirk of fate, he joined as an officer of the Dairy Division in Anand, in Kaira district of Gujarat. It was here that he noticed the exploitation of milk producing farmers by the large business lobby and found his true calling in life, to bring about economic and social development in the country and to work for the people. He joined forces with Tribhuvan Das Patel, a man of great integrity and commitment, to start a milk cooperative movement in the region, an initiative which over time not only became the Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation, popularly known as Amul, but also created a model which got replicated across India and transformed the lives of millions of small milk producers. Today, more than 15 million milk producers are members of the 144,500 dairy cooperative societies across the country. Anand could have been just a speck on the world map, but it was one non-milk drinking revolutionary who put it on the world map. Dr. Kurien abandoned the greener pastures abroad and came back to paint the country white. His remarkable life achievements are the embodiment of his faith in the ability of the common man to exercise control over his destiny. This faith helped him to create world-class institutions that become shining examples of excellence. GCMMF, IRMA, NDDB, etc., which enabled ordinary people to achieve extraordinary results. He strongly believed that by placing technology and professional management in the hands of farmers, the living standards of millions of rural poor could be improved. His creation of a community-owned cooperatives empowered millions of rural families, most of whom were landless and small farmers in India. Dr. Kurien wrote his autobiography, An Unfinished Dream. I quote, "A farmer sheds his blood as sweat to produce food for us. When he eats his meal in peace, when he gets the respect and an income equivalent to other trades and industries, then alone will my dream be fulfilled. The journey that I started in Anand 60 years ago is not going to end till every farmer in our country triumphs. End of quote. In his service over 50 years, Dr. Kurien was recipient of several distinguished national and international awards. To name a few, the Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, Krishi Ratna, Padma Vibhushan, Ramon Magsaysay Award for Community Leadership, the Wattler Peace Prize Award of Carnegie Foundation, the World Food Prize Award for the year 1989, the International Person of the Year by the World Dairy Expo, Wisconsin, US, the Ordre du Mérite Agricole by the Government of France, and the Regional Award 2000 from the Asian Productivity Organization, Japan, Economic Times Award for Corporate Excellence, and several others. After a lifetime of struggle and dedication towards serving the nation, Dr. Kurien breathed his last on 9th September 2012 after a brief illness at Anand. As has been said, we decided to institute this annual oration to commemorate Dr. Kurien's legacy because his life and work exemplifies the model for a responsible management leader, combining business skills with the larger good of the society and nation building. As Dr. Mashelkar, President of Global Research Alliance and former Director General of CSIR, had once described him, amongst the management leaders in India, Kurien was not only an icon, he was a miracle. The sunshine that Dr. Kurien brought in the lives of millions in the country will always be remembered with gratitude. I like to end with a quote from Dr. Kurien. Life is a privilege, and to waste it would be wrong. In living this privileged life, you must accept responsibility for yourself. Always use your talents to the best of your ability and contribute somehow to the common good. Once again, I welcome you all to this momentous event. Thank you, and may God bless you all.
Thank you, Father. We shall now play a video as a tribute to Dr. Kurien.
परियां वो मारेगा ओ परदेसिया ओ परदेसिया।
May I now request Mrs. Ela Bhatt to deliver the oration. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Ela Bhatt.
Do I see you? Do you see me? I hope so. It's a men's world. Everywhere is the same. The podium is. Father Abraham, Professor Ashish Kumar Pani, Dr. Madhukar Shukla, respected Shri Narendran, Chairman Board of Governance, my dear students, and distinguished guests and friends. Thank you for asking me to be with you this evening and your warm hospitality since I have come here and invited me to share my thoughts and experience. I did want to come here as I owed my obligation to XLRI because earlier when you invited me, I was struck with a chikungunya, and this is the time to show you that I've still not recovered from that, but still I wanted to come. Mainly because my obligation to Dr. Kurien, as I have always admired him. Of course, we also had some disagreement with him, but I admire him as a leader. I also believe deeply and strongly about cooperatives. Thank you, Father Abraham and Madhukar Bhai for inviting me. Thank you. So let me begin my lecture today. Of course, let me officially be first paying our respects to Dr. Kurien, in whose honor we have this lecture. Dr. Kurien was an inspiring man. He had vision, he had determination, he was a leader, and he was fearless. This combination of qualities allowed him to not only build institutions, but also build people. And by building both, he set in motion a revolution in the dairy industry of India. I am a dudwala to the nation. Means one who nurtures the people, he used to say. Vice Chancellor of Gujarat Agriculture University, Dr. Mehta, not being an agriculture graduate, was hesitating to accept the position of the Vice Chancellorship. So he went to Dr. Kurien and he was hesitant. So Dr. Kurien said to him that, so what? I'm a metallurgy, metallurgy engineer, and how am I a dudwala? So now I'm a dudwala, so it doesn't matter. I think this is a good message to the students. The desire to make the world a better place lies in so many of us. Although I succumbed to it early in my life, Seva, the actual trade union of self-employed women, was not founded until I was almost 40 years old. And today, when I am over 80 years old, Seva has 19 lakh members, 1.9 million members at the end of 2015. and spread across, thank you, are spread across 10 states and affiliates in all SAARC countries. SEWA has set in motion changes in the lives of poor self-employed women and through them to their communities at the local, national and international levels. When thinking of my talk today, I was struck by the motto of this educational institution that you belong to, management for the greater good. It's great. And if I got this right, this school has laid out some very broad and clear institutional goals. Responsible leaders, whole person growth, enabling infrastructure, social conscience, Jesuit tradition, thought leadership and student solidarity. These are not only excellent institutional goals, but the kind of goals that one can build a strong, healthy and holistic society on. Let me elaborate now. We begin with the self, the individual. When we look to the growth of an individual in a holistic way, we are looking at the mental, physical, social, economic and spiritual well-being of a person. Growth in one area is dependent on growth in other areas. For example, one's economic well-being affects one's mental and physical health as it affects one's social standing. After the individual, we look at the community the individual lives in. The family itself, the residential community, the educational community, the trade community, and the many groups with which an individual interacts in his or her lifetime. The community may be local or global, real or virtual, tight-knit or just a loose network, but the bonds are woven through at every level. And lastly, we have the environment within which our communities live. By that, I not only mean the natural environment, but also the spiritual realm we live in. It may be the Jesuit tradition, such as this school follows. And they all come together through what is called Anubandh. The word Anubandh derives from the Sanskrit Anu, which means to follow, the Bandh, which means a bond or connection. Anubandh means to follow a connection. It is a worldview that encourages us to follow the links of mutual interconnectedness towards a sense of wholeness. It says, I am not alone in this world. You are bound to me and I am bound to you. I am also bound to the people in my community, and we are linked to each neighboring communities. Together, we form the world. Like oceanic circles, or like the rooting branches of the great banyan tree, we are all bound to each other and to the land. Therefore, the sweetness you pour into our relationship will nourish my life, just as the bitterness I spill will harm your life. We are under one sky. We breathe a common air. We draw water from a common ground. We eat the produce of the same earth that sustains you and me. We are all the children of Mother Earth. This give and take ties us together in a net of mutuality. The world is sustained by the sum of all our correlated actions. What is our relationship with a tree? Of course, the example of tree comes to my mind First, as I come from a dry state, not Singhun like you. However, is it just a source of wood? Tree, is it just a source of wood? In the hot summer months, it provides shade and shelter when it rains. Some trees have roots or bark that makes medicines or color dyes. Their leaves nourish cattle or silkworms. Some leaves may be fashioned into plates and bowls, while others can be rolled up and smoked. Trees are homes and resting places for birds and animals, ants and insects, mosses and fungi. They hold water in the ground and enrich the soil with humus. These are but some of the attributes of a tree. So, when we choose to cut a tree just for its wood, we need to be aware of the ripple effect of our action on all the creatures and people that are dependent on the tree. Thus, this gives us an opportunity to think more holistically and weigh the consequences of our actions to determine their worth. If we treat a tree as the source of a single commodity, like fruit or wood, we effectively blind ourselves to the consequences of our actions. As it is with a tree, so it is with everything in our lives. A cow is not just a source of milk, but she also gives us meat and hide and manure and cows, and she pulls carts and plows and turns the water wheel. When we recognize our bond with cattle, we begin to look at the meat and dairy industry with new eyes. We see grasslands differently, and we begin to relate with the cattle herders and their social traditions. Whether it is products or people, everything is multifaceted and interlinked. I am haunted by the words of two farmers from Ghana I met, who said, "The food we produce, we do not eat. The food we eat, we do not produce. The food we produce, we do not eat. The food we eat, we do not produce." Farmers the world over are increasingly growing cash crops for export to distant lands, while their own daily food comes frozen or tinned from yet another distant land. The food we eat is grown somewhere and processed somewhere else, both equally anonymous places. The distance traveled by the water, milk, grains, fruits, vegetables we consume is ever increasing. The staple cereals we eat are no longer grown locally, nor are they processed locally. So much of our food is concocted and packaged on distant industrial estates, stripped of the favor of the land and the identity of the people that grew it. Backyard, kitchen gardens and fields no longer feed farm families and local communities. Why are farmers and farm workers who produce food in hunger? They live in hunger. Farmers see some of the highest levels of global poverty. The world food system today is becoming so complex that it defies common sense. Food cannot be reduced to just a commodity for trade. When Gandhiji encouraged freedom fighters to spin cotton and wear khadi, he was not just taking a stand against the foreign imports. He was saying that by choosing to wear khadi, the source of livelihood for millions of weavers across India, over machine-made imported textiles, we were bringing power back into the hands of the village weavers and building the local economy. He was encouraging the urban population to show support for their rural brethren. It used to be that when one bought khadi, 80% of the price paid by the consumer went into the hands of a village producer. That ratio has probably changed now, but I have checked with them and they say it has not changed if we consider the subsidy in account. What I mean is that, by wearing khadi, we honor the spinners, the weavers, and those who work with their hands. We get money flowing into the rural community, rural economy. Today we tend to forget the spirit of khadi, the worldview it embodies, and the insight the khadi insight it provides into ideas of manual labor, self-sufficiency, employment, sustainability, and local control. If we think along these lines, we can find khadi in all walks of life. Same is with the handicrafts. And, potters, carpenters, weavers, dyers, embroiderers also work with their hands the world over. Most are poor and live on the margins of society. They are highly skilled workers. They embody generations old knowledge traditions, and they keep alive the cultural identity of the country. But craft skills that take generations to acquire are being lost overnight because the craftsmen and women can no longer live by their trade. As consumers, when we buy handmade goods, we are making clear statements to the public. We are making clear statements with our money. We are saying that we support the poor village craftswomen, craftsmen, and their empowerment. We value the rich cultural heritage of our country. We are saying we support non-polluting, peace-promoting, environmentally friendly, local, sustainable development. We believe that non-industrial modes of production too have a place in our economy. We are saying traditional crafts are not our past, they are also our future. To my mind, Gandhiji's message of non-violence was a message against poverty, because poverty is nothing but a form of violence. Violence perpetuated with the consent of the society. It is time we took ownership of the role we play in perpetuating poverty and saw ourselves as an integral part of the world and see the world as an essential part of us. We are bound to each other and the world around us. Some bonds are visible while others are not. But if we care to look closely, the correlated nature of our lives becomes immediately apparent. Anubandh is the foremost about gaining awareness of our place in the world. Globalization. Globalization is exciting, but the excitement of the new and wondrous has dulled our awareness of what is happening under our nose, in our own backyards. Our concern for the local has been steadily declining. Our patterns of consumption and production have become unbalanced. We no longer care about the distance our food, clothing, and water travel before we consume them. Even Medicare, even education, even finance, does not care about their consequences, changes on attitudes. Attitudes of the individuals, attitudes of the society, and of the universe. These changes did not happen overnight. We, as consumers, have made the choice. We have made the choice. The reasons may be curiosity, or status, or price, or quality. One can say that these are market forces at work. But the fact remains that these shifts in the market are a consequence of our choices and our decisions. And therefore, we need to think about the repercussions of our choices and determine their worth. We need to become aware of who benefits and who loses on our account. If we had to witness the consequences of our actions, we would not find it easy to shrug our shoulders and dismiss people as casualties. We would realize that their loss eventually has an impact on ourselves as well. The closer the distance between the producer and consumer, closer the distance between the producer and the raw materials, closer the distance between the government and the governed, the greater the accountability. Accountability to ourselves, to our society, and to the planet. I suggest we begin by building an active relationship with the world around us. We do it in a way that the food we eat, the clothes we wear, and the objects we surround ourselves with in our daily lives not only reflect our own values but also activate the values of our society. This is a two-way process. Let us build a fair and prosperous society by approaching problems in an ethical and holistic way so that our natural resources are equitably distributed and our labor is fairly rewarded. Let us build local communities that are interlinked and lively. Let us not impose systems and practices in the name of modernization if it leaves the people at constant disadvantage, feeling inadequate and vulnerable to poverty and exploitation. How is it progress if one person benefits at the cost of another? Is it progress? I would like to see us turn our liabilities into assets. How do that? By carefully looking at our local conditions and seeking solutions grounded in local reality. Since the Indian climate is cursed with sunny, hot summers, we are in a position to turn sunlight into a blessing. Use it to our benefit. Let us then find ways to harness solar energy, for example, for our daily living, so we are not solely dependent on capital-intensive electricity generated by power plants. We can solve a lot more problems by using multi-pronged, integrated and sustainable approaches. But we have to think about it. A farmer's need for cash income can be met in so many different ways. When farmers add even one head of cattle and pair agriculture with dairy and with home-based craft or whatever, or processing, they can supplement farming income in a significant way. Similarly, the age-old practice of farmers engaging in handicrafts in off-season gave the family multiple sources of income. Let us revive those old bonds wherever we can, create new bonds and new links between people, professions and products. to enrich not only our economy but also our culture. Let us see work too in a similar light, as a multi-pronged integrated effort that enriches our personal life, our family life, our neighborhoods, and our environment. Work cannot just be viewed as a 9-to-5 job under an employer. Work is also self-employment and seasonal occupations, balancing a multitude of disparate skills. Our government schemes for the rural poor do not take this into account. Mastering multiple skills make one more valuable to society, to family, and to ourselves. It makes one resilient in adverse times. Let us invest in what nurtures the family, the society, and the environment at a time, not one by one, but at the same time. Our view of education too needs to be reviewed. Let us see education as a lifelong pursuit for both adults as well as children, and not limit it to school years or end it with university degrees. The current system of 12 years of schooling is too long a childhood for those who need to grow up fast to begin contributing to the family finances. Apart from literacy, our current education system also needs to include trade schools, which would prepare children to enter the workforce with good and usable skills for the nurturance of the society and the planet. Useful education must be relevant to daily life as well as to future life. Education must equip us to become aware of our role in the economy as producers and also as consumers, of our role in society as peacemakers as well as agents of change, and our rights and duties as responsible global citizens. I believe that if we can live with the awareness of Anubandh in our lives, as individuals, as family members, as members of a community, and as local and global citizens, our world is much more likely to be balanced, holistic, and peaceful. All it takes is an awareness of our mutual relationship, mutual relationships, known or unknown, but they are there. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your thought-provoking and inspiring oration. As an example of Anubandh, we shall now play a short video clip on Seva. We will start with the questions.
Let me raise the same question which I raised to you yesterday at dinner. It took you about 40 years to start Seva. One wonders why it took you that long. One. Number two, when it did happen, what was the trigger, the moral force, or the psychological awakening that triggered this that has lasted for 45 years and more?
It takes long, you said. It's a relative term, what is long and what is short as such. We have to grow at the pace of the women. Poor women working. It takes time for them to trust each other, to get organized, and then be ready to participate, and then to take the inputs. It may be financial services, it may be education, it may be struggling, so maybe for struggling for minimum wage to be asserted. So for policy change, for asset transfer, asset ownership, asset generation. So all these things takes time. The most time is taken into building trust with each other and trust with whom they have to deal. It may be policymakers, it may be contractors, subcontractors, it may be bankers, and then within their own, it takes time to build up the cooperative, and then within their own board, also it takes time to trust, and then once that is settled, then they are so open to learn and to imbibe new knowledge, new techniques, but at their own pace. Who are we to make them develop? They have to develop themselves, and then along with them, we also develop. So there is, as such, there is no difference between they and we, but we all grow together. So it takes time, but it's a relative thing. Everything, at least, one generation. And then, with the new generation of Seva comes new challenges. A vegetable vendor or a rag picker whose daughter or whose daughter-in-law is not going to go into the same profession because she is educated, she was sent to school, and the school education has taught them to get a job. Where are the jobs? So, it takes time for them. Now the new generation will have to find that what are the issues that are faced by them. They have to experience the reality. Triggering, at least in my case, there was nothing like that. I have been a product of those days when our country was fighting for freedom. And I was in the school at that time. In 48, I entered the college when we had just gained the independence of India. And our teachers, our parents, our books that we read, and particular teachers, they had said that now that we have to rebuild the nation, we don't have to copy the Britishers. So that was the goal of rebuilding the nation. And then Gandhiji had shown the values that this is right and this is wrong. So fortunately, in those days, I think our generation had no confusion in mind. What about our career or options? Or I was trained as a lawyer, so I had to use my legal talents for rebuilding the nation, and where poor and then rural and villages was in center. That was the central. So as such, there was no trigger as such, no dramatic. There have been cases. If I have to give an example of the earlier days, then that in those days I was on the road driving a scooter, and at the crossroads the police said stop with the hand. So we had to immediately hit the brake, and then we stopped. Along with us were cart puller, a couple. You have seen in Ahmedabad, we have cart pullers, जो लारी खींचते हैं. That lorry was fully, loaded, and they had to stop. The lorry didn't have a brake system, so they stopped. But since it was a slight slow, so anyway, so it was an accident. They broke their knees and fell down. Of course, those who were around helped them, and then we admitted both of them in the hospital. But then I said to myself, since I was working for the textile labor, the organized formal labor, who were protected by labor legislations, so my mind as a lawyer said that, let me claim under the Workmen's Compensation Act the necessary compensation. So went to the labor department and labor court, and labor court said that they are not workers. So why? Because in the act they were not defined as works, or they were not there. So they had only the industrial workers were workers, and they were protected. So the 90% of the workforce was outside any kind of protected labor legislation, or entitled to social security, or access to banking, etc. So and when we asked the hospital, then they could not give the necessary calculation of the degree of the injury that was faced by them. They did not know how to calculate the degree of the injury, because what they had studied were only the industrial work and not this kind of manual labor. So that was the thing. So that made me, and I decided that I am no more interested in the industrial worker who are already protected. So I left the work of textile workers because they are already protected, and then I decided to work those who were unorganized, unprotected, unrecorded. In the census of India, until 1990, this 90% of the workforce, today it is 95.7% of the workforce, which is informal, unorganized. So they were in the census report, official head counting, where they were not recorded as worker. They were officially recorded as non-worker. And the woman's work was totally invisible. Since you are invisible, then you have no voice. And then since you have no voice, then things are not budgeted, not planned for you. So that that accident of Lariwala, that may be the incident that triggered me. But it's difficult to answer that part.
Good evening, ma'am. Just, ma'am, while answering the question, you told about your generation was not having fear about the career. But the present generation, actually there is first fear that we are not getting a job, and then once we are getting a job, there is another fear not to lose that job. So what is your suggestion for this particular generation? Because another threat is like this, you as quoted about Gandhiji about empowering local economy. But the present era of globalization, the competitiveness under the fear is very high. So how to reduce that dilemma?
You know better. However, I think there should be no difference between job or self-employment or so all this formal and informal. This is a false divide. Maybe the economists or the academicians, so they must have thought for their own convenience to categorize. This tyranny of categorizing is worst. Everything is categorized under the definition. No, that is not possible. And in a country so diverse, a country like us, every 100 miles, things change. So, in that sense, I think if you get a job, if you have self-employment, everyone should be having abundant opportunity. Now, you ask me, I think we have 3 major agendas. Have we solved our problem of roti, kapda and makan? Don't say that we have, poverty is gone or has declined. Of course, poor have not become poorer, but poor, the vulnerability of the poor has grown. In my lifetime, in my work, I have seen poor getting out of poverty. At the same time, poor, those who are already gone up, have fallen down and have become more poorer. So these things happen. What we need is at least for every human being, roti, kapda, makan, that basic, primary necessity of life has to be solved. With all this knowledge and resources that we have, with all this ICT and with research and R&Ds, and it is possible. It is possible to, to solve this problem. And forestry has abundant, employment opportunity. Water harvesting, water conserving, all that water management, that has tremendous abundant employment opportunities. These 3 basic things, kapda, it's a whole right, vastra vidya, you just start from cotton to, all the way to put the apparels in the market or for self-consumption. The best of the designs, fashions, can start from the local level. Let there be, fashion shows at the local level. Why not? Why do we have to go to Mumbai, for the fashion show? So there is, I do believe that all our, roti, kapda, makan, primary health care, primary education, and primary banking, they have tremendous opportunities for employment. But somehow, those kinds of necessary investments to increase the productivity, to increase the income that nurtures one's family, oneself, that nurtures the society, the planet, all this is not taken into account. And so often we see that investment goes haywire. Hardly one knows. So I think the basic necessities, the primary basic necessities of life have tremendous employment opportunities lying, waiting for you. I don't
Good
know.
evening.
I don't know how convincing it is to you, but so this is what I have learned from my own experience.
Good evening, ma'am. We do understand the life of yours and Seva would have been really challenging in the country like ours, male-dominated society. We would like to understand what made you and Seva keeps on going and growing. So, and also if you can cite some of the examples of your life and also the Seva as a whole.
I don't know, such answers. I'm not ambitious that way, though I have great ambition. I'm not in a hurry for anything. There are failures and there are successes. It's all relative thing. Because every achievement has two failures growing so along with that. And every failure has many opportunities going along that. So long as we take the right path, we know, what is right and what is wrong. God has given conscience to everybody. When a child speaks, tells a lie, the first time when he tells a lie, the child knows that he spoke a lie. So, that conscience is there. If we follow that, and if we trust our own, human beings, living beings, I think things work out. It may take time. Some things happen and surprise you. But still, so long as the path is right, and our steps may be slow, so maybe either or there, but still, so long as we, keep up that path, then I think things work.
Good evening, ma'am. I am Sunil Kesarwani, GM student. When we talk about women empowerment, so we always measure it with respect to what man has done or what men are doing. So normally we measure whether or in postman or whatever else. But it is also said that women are not here to do what men have done, but they are here to do what men cannot do. So I just want to your opinion about this.
Thank you. First of all, I don't believe in empowerment. Empowerment is a verb. It's a process. It happens. So as you grow and as you understand things, as you do things on your own, as you take decisions, right or wrong, that is an empowering process to you. Otherwise, how can illiterate to start with? We started Seva in 72. We had to start, Seva Bank in 74. In 2 years' time. I didn't know money at all. I had not studied and I was not inclined, but even then. So, when you start doing, then illiterate women and all scattered, unorganized, but still can run a formal financial organization, institution like bank, profitably, distributing dividend every year except the first year till now. So it is possible when you sit on the board, when the members sit on the board, then they take right decision. For example, when, when RBI gave the permission to the banks, some, 10 years back, for the bank to decide the rate of interest. So, on the board, at that time I was the chair, so I asked that, what do you think? How do we decide, that how much rate of interest we are going to charge? And then we said that you think about it, let us, set up a committee. And then who wants to be on the committee? Except myself, everybody was ready to be on that committee. They met, and so they were fairly, explained that out of 100 rupees, where does your bank money is? What's the cost of lending and all that, So the next month at the board meeting, they said, these vegetable vendors, rag pickers, agriculture workers, they each one represent their occupation, and they are on the board. There are 15 of them, and they say that we must go by the market rate. Why? Because if we keep low, then our own women will borrow and then re-lend it. So, and then if we keep it high, so then nobody will come to us. So keep it at the market rate, and that way. So they had the common sense, and they decided. So in every case, I think they decide, they have the capacity to decide. And they may make mistakes, but again learn from that. पर ऐसा मौका ही कहाँ दिया किसी ने? When, for example, any government, they want to implement more and more, things, they put it in the scheme and then deliver it all the way through the government machinery. So how would you build up your capacity and on the way get yourself empowered? I think let our people, common people, let them handle their own way and be ready. Our role is to give more and more opportunities. Let there be more and more opportunities for them to raise their productivity, their income, to use that income to plan their finance, access to finance, all that. Give most of the opportunities, skill development, all that. I think that works in my experience. So empowering comes from that.
Good evening, ma'am. My name is Abhijit. Bureaucracy, when you talk about Indian bureaucracy, I'm sure you must have worked with a lot of bureaucrats at the grassroots level. So what has your experience been with respect to the type of support that the state has, the bureaucrats have, in helping these organizations ameliorate problems at the grassroots level?
क्या पूछा?
I'll repeat the question.
थोड़ा mic में बोलिए.
When you're working at at the grassroots level.
Where are you?
I'm here. Yeah.
Oh yes, now. I can now say.
Yeah.
Sorry.
When you're working at the grassroots level, you must have worked with a lot of bureaucrats, young IS officers or state officers, and sometimes they're accused of, not knowing the grassroots situation and not working as per the government mandate. As working in Seva, what has your experience been working with the bureaucrats, and do you feel that the young generation of bureaucrats are more geared towards understanding the grassroots level, or in this respect, how has your experience been?
Yesterday you were asking me that what is the greatest obstacle to your work, and I said the conceptual block of the middle class, educated middle class.
One last question, please.
Yeah, where is he?
Hello. Good evening, ma'am. Here. My question is that what role does private and corporate sector have to play in the critical section of health and education, and what can we as future managers do to increase this role?
Thoda loud बोलो, please.
What does the sector, corporate sector and private sector, what role does it play in the critical section of health and education, and what can we as future managers do to increase this role?
क्या पूछा? In healthcare. हाँ. Yeah. Health is a very.
Does it go beyond the CSR activities? Do you already associate with them, and how have they helped you and Seva in reaching where you already are?
I think health is a very totally holistic subject. There are occupational health hazards, and there are health problems related to general health, particular disease, and I won't go into details, but for anybody's health, the most important is clean air, clean water, and shram, mehnat. We all live at the cost of that. Unless we have that basic, clean atmosphere and clean water, clean air, then we have to depend on Medicare. And unfortunately, a day has come now where Medicare is considered health care. I think in Europe, where they had introduced Medicare much later, when ensured by the basic clean air and water. Of course, now at present the situation is changing, but तो इसके ऊपर तो ध्यान ही नहीं दिया जाता. We go on polluting. You know more than me, but both are the basic primary requirement for health. Having said that, I think Seva has a health program and insurance and all that, but the things have gone from bad to worse. It has gone out of hand. I'm very frustrated about the health. Health education तो है ही नहीं. I don't think Seva has been very successful in that area. But today, the village people also believe in a doctor. We have very good infrastructure of primary health centers, PHC, and there are doctors, there are nurses, there are medicines available. But that doesn't cure the health, improve the health. I think very difficult to answer that because the situation is really not good. 80% of their earnings go for to the doctors for the Medicare. But that doesn't cure. That doesn't give any more health to the members.
Thank you, ma'am. I now call upon Dr. Ashish K. Pani to give the vote of thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ashish Pani.
distinguished speaker of this evening, Mrs.Ela, Honorable Chairman of Board, T.V. Narendran, respected Director, Father Abraham, the officers of Tata Steel, the citizen of Jamshedpur, member of the press, my dear students, staff, faculty, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to give a vote of thanks in this occasion. In spite of a lot of problems, health issues, I think a lot of family people have advised you, madam, not to come to Jamshedpur. Still you made it to come to Jamshedpur for this talk. I thank you for taking an effort to come to Jamshedpur. Ma'am, we are greatly encouraged by your gracious presence and immensely benefited by your inspiring address. You have been an inspiration to thousands of the people around the world for his unique Gandhian approach to the suffering. Today, you emphasize the importance of the holistic growth of a personality. Also, you talked about poverty will lead to the exploitation. And the theme of your talk is that living with Anubandh, the way of sustainability. And more importantly, you are talking about we should be more responsible to the society and environment. That would be a reminder for all of us, most importantly to our students who are attending this session, who will be shaping and touching many lives in the future. I am sure your message will have a deep impact on the minds and hearts of the students, and we are grateful to you for this wonderful interaction that we will remember all the times to come. As a token of love, as a respect to you, now I request Father E. Abraham, the director, to give a memento from all of us present here. My special thanks to Chairman T.V. Narendran and our Director, Father Abraham, to give the vision and leadership and ensuring that we are in the right path of serving the greater good. I also wish to express my sincere thanks to Father George, Father Tony, Father Jerry, and the administration team for all the arrangements for the students' event. My sincere thanks to print media that who are present here. Hope they will give excellent coverage to the points which Mom has stressed in her talk. Last but not the least, the special thanks to the students, volunteers who supported to conduct the sessions without any problem. Thank you all and wish you a wonderful evening.
May I request you all to join us for tea and snacks in front of the Tata Auditorium. Thank you.